This is Amulet from Badlands Backlogs, and we are back for Bleep Bloop episode 7. It is December 17th, just a little bit before Christmas. But today, I have someone that I've been trying to get together with for a few weeks here. Someone that I, lack of better terms, honestly admire. A very well-spoken, outspoken individual. Someone that I've had a work relationship with in the past, and has been one of the more supportive people as years have gone on in my life. So I'd like to welcome, from his own very special podcast, my dear friend, Mr. Tim.
Hey, yeah, so Amelant and I used to work together way back in the dark ages. That was restaurant life, and
The
I
place
think at
that shall
that
not be
point,
named.
what was that?
The place that shall not be named.
The place that shall not be named. Um, and I think at that time you like multiple times threatened to punch me in the face because of just how much of a positive toxic piece of garbage I was. Because I was the manager, so I had to be. But we bonded over video games, and I am so excited to join here. Of course, Badlands, we met up in the frozen north there, and I've always loved talking about video games. They've been a release for me my whole life, and I'm just excited to be here. A little bit of background, I have a podcast with a co-host called It Gets Worse, which is all about creating queer community and non-ideal spaces. So today you're going to get a little bit of a rainbow perspective. I am cisgender and use he, him pronouns, but the main way that I go through life is just trying to make it a little bit better for myself and everybody around me. So thanks for having me on. Super excited.
Yeah, I should probably note with that, definitely not a child-friendly show this time around. Words will be said, vulgars will be spoke. We are not for the kiddos around here. I'm trying. But no, like I said, you are, as someone, especially in the past, since COVID started, I was in a personal rough time, came back with little to no things, and I remember my first year starting up my fantasy critic league, as I was trying to rope people in around just to partake. You were one of the very first ones, wrapped you and John, to join me in my adventures. But it was good.
Oh my god. Are we doing it? Wait, do you have a fantasy league going this year? Can I hop back in on that train? I kind of fell away once. I now live in Texas, but
gross. Yeah, no, we have done it every year since. We've had some years with just two of us. I think this coming year it'll be myself, Caitlin, and then my new friend in California, Kyle the Fish, will be joining. So
I would like to plug myself into this list. I would love to use this as like a jumping point for me to get back into video gaming culture. I have finally made the good life decision that is to use the degrees that I have, which there are many because I'm dumb and like giving money to people who already have money and no longer work in the restaurant industry. So I have a lot more time to give towards my entertainment, and I look forward to re-engaging with that space. So if you have a slot,
absolutely,
let me know.
It's a weird year. This year was easier to draft because of all the delays and stuff. There was a lot more options to go from of like concrete dates. Whereas next year, outside of like Final Fantasy and Wolverine, possibly, there's not like a whole lot announced yet. So it's going to be a weird time.
I mean, I think that Paper Mario could be some easy points.
Is there a new one already?
Yeah, they're launching another one. And then there's also Mario versus Donkey Kong, which I have to look into a little bit more.
Yeah, that's the like old DS remake and the Peach game. They have a Peach game coming out.
Where was that Paper Mario? It was on one of the lists I was looking up. I was doing a little bit of like research. Princess Peach Showtime?
Yeah. It's her own. She dresses in different outfits and gets abilities, kind of like Final Fantasy X too, if you played that.
Okay.
Except they probably took out the button to make her cry like they did in her DS game she had before. Because you would make her cry to grow plants and vines for whatever reason, because females in the early 2000s.
Oh my gosh, that's so perfect. It's almost as good as how they taught us that storytelling was important in games by killing off a female lead.
Is the sword sharp? The sword was definitely sharp.
The sword was very sharp.
Okay. Before we move on here, a little bit of housekeeping personally. Um, for you, Tim, actually, since you brought it up about the restaurant that shall not be named, uh, recently myself, as of 2 weeks ago, I've finally quit kitchens. And
Woo!
I have transitioned to, I'm still at the same facility, but transitioned to a maintenance job where I am like a set 7 to 4 weekends off, and I am going crazy with the amount of free time that I have.
Isn't it wild when you get your weekends back?
Weekends and just like the extra 3 hours at night. Like the first day I told Caitlin, I was like, I think I need a second job just to like catch back up on what I'm supposed to be doing.
So funny.
It's good. And on top of that, for the website, Badlands Backlogs, as of, I don't want to do too much information yet, but I am proud to announce as of, I think, Wednesday, I got us on our first sort of media press list for a company. So we will be getting like early press releases on stuff and the possibility of getting review copies for games finally. So that is fun and exciting. Don't want to say the company name yet, just until things are more concrete, but we are becoming more official as the days pass. Uh, with Tim, I had the initial idea here because part of the things when I started Badlands Backlog was to share my passion for games and just the love of games in general, which I'm currently live and where you're from is kind of a barren space. At times, I honestly feel like Magic and board games and stuff have a bigger community here than the video game side of things, and especially finding people who are as invested as I am is kind of hard to do. So I thought it'd be good for us to kind of catch up what's going on in games, talk about, as you said, being a member of LGBT community and how that's kind of affected and represented in games, and just kind of go over the whole gambit, have a nice little fun conversation. Nothing super major newsworthy happening. It's week before Christmas. Nothing's going on.
I
So
was like, right now, everybody's looking to make that money, right? Like every single big game is trying to get that final push for the last big push. Get your kids their brand new PS5 or their Xbox Series X. Spend that dollary dues and get them the brand new video game that they've been complaining about this entire time.
it's always complaints. You get the Call of Duty for the PS4 when you got a PS5. Grandmas don't know.
Right, right. All that.
So moving on, Tim, what have you been playing besides League of Legends, which I'm sure we'll talk about for a bit?
Yep. So League of Legends is definitely where I sink a lot of my time, especially because when I was working in restaurants, like I only had an hour to give here or there, and League is really good at not punishing you for not being able to commit a lot of time and invest in the story type thing. Um, but the game that I picked up, and it's so funny, I swear, I pick up bad games and then they get good while I play them. Is I picked up Diablo 4 when it dropped because I played a lot of Diablo when I was growing up and I really enjoyed it. And like Diablo 2 is my thing. Diablo 3 hit and I loved being a barbarian that just jumped around and hit things. And then Diablo 4 dropped and I was like, oh, this is my childhood. So I've been putting some time into that. And then my big thing over Christmas is I'm going to finally finish the first installment of the Final Fantasy VII remake. So I started that a while back and I'm going to get back into that and I'm going to finish it this year before Christmas because I am so excited for the next installment of it. Like, this is a game that was iconic from my childhood. I was not allowed to play it because it had magic and magic was bad. Um, Look, they've tried so hard to not have a gay child, and lo and behold, here I stand today. But Final Fantasy VII was one of those games that all my friends talked about and just was such a pop culture icon. So as soon as I could play it, I started to engage with Final Fantasy in general, and then they dropped the remake, and I'm like, that's it. I'm tackling this. I'm gonna play it. Really excited to finish my playthrough of it. I just summoned my first summon. I summoned in a free in a battle.
Oh, you got so much to go.
Oh, I have. I probably won't get all the way through it, but like with any video game that you drop for a while and you pick up, right? You have like that vertical learning curve to relearn mechanics, and then you can continue on with the story. So like the first 3 hours is going to be me dying incessantly, remembering how to swing a giant sword.
Yeah, so I actually did the same thing this year and finished it, I think in January. But I never played original Final Fantasy VII. So it was like, I knew the spoilers, I know the stabby stab, I know what happens. But actually experiencing it firsthand was a first time thing for me.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Still some things that I don't think aged well. When you get to Hell House, that's just a weird time. Whatever, you haven't gotten there yet, but when we get Link, or not Link, Cloud dressed up in his nice little dresses and partakes in like a whole like Broadway production musical number.
Yep.
Weird times, but fun. It's one of
Yep.
those times when I was playing and Caitlin walked in the room and she's kind of stared at the TV, questioning what I was doing, and I don't have an answer. But
I'm-
after playing Yakuza for the past year, it all kind of runs together now.
Especially with like, I think the thing that made me laugh the most when I picked up Final Fantasy VII again is I started playing through it. I was like, gosh, I forgot that the good guys in Final Fantasy VII are eco terrorists.
Suck.
Like you're straight up Greenpeace and you're blowing up nuclear reactors.
Yeah.
It's- There's some strong social commentary running through video games. Every time somebody's like, video games have gone woke, I'm like, dude, no, we've had like video games have always spoken towards the human condition at all times.
It's the
Uh,
classic meme of Mario being an Italian plumber and like having a Hispanic job or whatever that everyone used to make. It's like everything just kind of we're accepting here.
mhm. Oh, you're just wrong with it. I mean, one of the games that I picked up recently because they did a remake for, I think it was on Xbox that they re-released it, but they did a Bayonetta re-release.
Yeah, was it
And
like the thing with Vanquish too? Yeah.
yeah, and I did a playthrough of that. And I was just sitting there. I'm like, this game is like disturbingly weird, but this character is like very much so on the edge of feminism, like fully pushing towards a resexualization of the human condition and like all this like I was really into it. I was like, when did this release? And then I looked at the timeline and I was like, wow,
Let's say, wasn't
way
that like a
back then they were
2007,
making this.
2006, 2007?
I think that was the original release, yeah, 2006, 2007, and that was it was a trip to play. Like it was like uncomfortable for the first little part, but I was sitting there and one of my friends was sitting there. He's like, "This is straight up drag, isn't it?" I was like, "That is what this reminds me of. Like this is straight up a drag. This is a drag show in a video game with shoe guns. That's what we're doing right now."
You know, and they liked it enough to get her into Smash Brothers eventually, so it worked out.
Low key, I first played with her in Smash Brothers before I played the Bayonetta game.
Oh, you're definitely confused then.
Oh yeah, no. Like I started playing with her, I was like, "Who is this? I need to figure this character out." And they're like, "Bayonetta." I'm like, googling Bayonetta. I'm like, "What the
Love
fuck
it.
am I getting into?"
I'm all in.
Oh, it was so good.
Uh,
Yeah, so
Go on.
I was gonna say that's what I've been playing recently. What I'm really excited for. I also just found out that Prince of Persia is releasing in January, and I'm definitely gonna take a stab at that one. Love the Prince of Persia series.
It looks good. I'm excited. At first, I thought it was going to be a quick, like, not necessarily like an arcade game, but a smaller thing. And then they came out and said it's going to be like a whole 30-hour experience. I'm like, hell yeah, go off, Ubisoft. Get me out of your usual open world Far Cries and whatever else you have going on. That's all the same. Give me the fun stuff.
Right? Like, and I'm one of those players, I get freaked out by open world games. Like, I need a strong storyline. I need to be like, you need to go here, you need to go here, you need to go here, because then I just start doing side quests due to FOMO and I get lost.
Yeah,
And I
there's too
hate it
much.
so much. Well, and like, it makes me really sad because these games are so good and they're so big, but I get lost. And I'm like, just stick to the main storyline. And I'm always promising myself, I'm going to stick to the main storyline. Like, Starfield. When Starfield dropped this year, I stuck to that main storyline to the best of my abilities, and I still ended up just like, I don't got the time anymore.
That's exactly why I haven't picked up Tears of the Kingdom yet this year. Because I don't
Mhm.
have like a 70-hour time sink to drop into that game. And I used my I started doing. I take like a week off now for like a big release just to be a vegetable on my couch, and I used that for Starfield this year.
Hmm.
Super loved it. Had a great time. But God, I have not returned to that game or had any urge to want to return. I finished my story. I did the stuff I needed to see. It just didn't hit for me. Didn't hit the same as what I was hoping for.
Didn't quite get your Skyrim in space that you were looking for.
No, and it sucks because it. The way I always talk about it, it falls into the same camp that Kingdom Hearts 3 did for me, where it was talked about for so many years in advance, and it got such high expectations from the fan base, from just everyone talking about it, that no matter what that game did, it was not going to meet expectations for anybody. So you're going in having like a crippled output on it, and I don't know.
Well, and like it also just got released at just the wrong time because Baldur's Gate 3 also just like came
Yeah.
out of left field with the chair and slammed the industry with success,
Yep.
right? And in terms of role playing game, I don't think you can make a logical argument that there is a better role playing game than um, Baldur's Gate 3 at this point in time. Like that game absolutely destroyed all RP for this year. It was not close. Like some people are like, Spider-Man got robbed. Spider-Man's not a role-playing game. You're playing Spider-Man. You're not creating a new character. You're not making a whole lot of decisions. Like it's a superhero video game, and that's great. But it's so different from what Baldur's Gate 3 and Starfield were looking for, where you're looking for that little bit more customization. And I think that Baldur's Gate 3 just absolutely like turned everybody's head straight up around. They're like, wait, what?
Yeah, and honestly, to that effect, I don't. Spider-Man wasn't even second or third place for anything it was nominated for to begin with. Uh, it was just too packed of a year for more of the same to succeed in any meaningful way. It was great.
Mhm.
I platinum Spider-Man 2. It was a great time, but like you said with Baldur's Gate, which we'll probably move on to next because I have yet to play it. I was waiting on Xbox release, which just now happened. I believe on the 7th, whatever day the Game Awards was this year, they shadow dropped it. How
Is
much
it
have you played?
on? Is it on Game Pass?
No, sadly.
Oh,
And they
that
pretty
I
much
was
said
hopeful
it's
it was
not
on Game
going to
Pass.
be.
Look,
It's reached the top sales on Xbox. It's like the number one most paid for thing. I think it's outsold than what it did on PlayStation already, which is nuts considering
oh,
like install base for the two consoles. But
that's wild.
I'm torn
No,
because I want to try it, but I'm not usually like a fan of the like super top down point and click like setting up your abilities and moves. I think the only one I've really fallen into for that was Wasteland 3 a couple years ago.
okay.
So I'm nervous to try it and make the money investment on it.
Well, and that's so I'm nervous to try it just because it's such a deep dive for me, and I play D&D once a week with a bunch of friends, and they loved it, and they're like, "This is great. You get to do this. You get to do this." But my concern with it is like I like RTSs,
Ooh,
and if it hits that sweet spot in between an RTS and an RPG, I don't know if I'll like it because my brain doesn't do the like, oh, I'm going to role play and like develop relationships when I'm doing an RTS. When I switch into RTS mode, I'm 100% like cost benefit analysis. How do I do this the most efficient? How do I do the really crazy, cool, fun, like overpowered thing with my resources? That's what I want to do with an RTS versus when I'm playing a role playing game, like I get heavily invested in the monolinear story, right?
yep. You like
And that's
playing the
the
Microsoft Excel spreadsheet simulator.
yeah, all about that. Like it probably comes from the engineer background of just wanting to build like the best machine possible, and RTSs let you do that on such a fundamental level.
Those two RTSs, I think, besides like Halo Wars, I think like Command and Conquer back in the day.
Advanced Wars and Advanced Wars 2,
Oh,
like pinnacle
pinnacle.
gameplay. Love it.
Do you count the Pikmin in there as the RTS?
Never played through Pikmin.
Oh,
No.
Caitlin played the new one this year and was like invested like it was her life for about 2 weeks.
Quick shout out to gaming households. Like, I love how you and Caitlin are like hardcore gamers, and then my husband and I, that's what we do. Like, we have our computer set up next to each other. We have the giant TV right beside the computer, so one of us could be on the TV playing Xbox while the other's playing the computer. Like, if you are a gamer, marry or date other gamers. Life is better that way. I
Oh, it's so
promise.
good. I lucked out too, because like as you said, our living room, we got two TVs set up. She has her Xboxes and stuff hooked up on hers. I have mine side by side. But she takes it a step further and doesn't like playing with audio or sound. So no matter what, I always get audio choice on whatever I'm playing. You can hear whatever I'm doing. So it's so good.
She doesn't like audio or sound in her games?
No, she like has it on mute. Even if like she's watching stuff on Hulu or something, it's on like a 1 or a 2 to barely hear that I can't even hear it. And she's just like reading subtitles.
Huh.
So no matter what I'm playing, I get the sound and it just works out.
That's I'm I
Baffled
have
because I
so
still
many
am after three
questions.
years.
I'm sitting here, I'm like, they make headsets. Like, if she's worried about sound bleach, y'all can both just have on headsets the whole time.
Nah, not even like if I'm at work, even like I'll come home and she'll just be
And she
like
has,
on the couch. She's been watching Bones the past like 3 weeks, and it's just like on a 2 or a 3. That's it.
I just can't even imagine. I'm such a loud person. I can't imagine being around somebody who is like naturally that quiet and wants it that quiet. That's wild to me.
Right? Like I got this like real nice headset for Xbox I can use for surround sound and stuff. Like you can turn your stuff up. No, it's fine. I'm like, yeah, okay, sure. You do
Crazy.
you, boo.
Look, though I always I'm just gonna throw this out there. I'm an advocate of this. Some days it's not about who has baggage and who doesn't. It's about whose baggage matches yours so that you can continue through life together. And that sounds like a great symbiotic relationship. So happy for you, bro.
It's good. This is what I've deserved after all these years. My time has come.
My time has come.
Also, quick shout out since you mentioned him. Quick shout out to John. I missed that man and our Sea of Thieves times back in the day.
I forgot that you two played Sea of Thieves so much together.
It was
Jesus,
like
you ran around
it
on
was like
that a
a
lot with
year
me.
time span, maybe like 9 months time span. It was like every day we were in it when the Pirates of the
Uh-huh.
Caribbean stuff came out. So good. And I say that if people are on stream, I got they released a nice Sea of Thieves ugly Christmas sweater that I came in the mail today. So I gotta represent. Still
So good.
hopelessly addicted to that game after all this time.
It's a really like I remember watching him play it and be like, "That's a really good game." I that one definitely falls into the too big of a game for me.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it just can't be. I want that story driving force through it. I had the same actually. So I was a WoW player for a very long time, and I
Yes.
never wanted to get to end game WoW because you ran out of storyline and you would just sit there and do the dungeons, right?
Yep.
And like I hated grinding for gear at the end of it. I was just saying, I was like, man, I don't like this.
Yeah, it's a struggle. Even I we were just talking about it before we started, but you at the new expansion they announced. In my
Mhm.
dumbass, I watched BlizzCon like I do every year. I fell in the hype train and I resubbed again. Already pre-ordered the new expansion, and I'm already like, it's at the end of the expansion time, so like I'm gonna take my time with the story. But God, I don't want to reach the end. I don't want to do the dailies. I don't want to do the grind. I don't want to make it like a commitment. And
Mhm.
I've never been one. Everyone's got like, I have 10 max level characters I do daily quests on. No, motherfucker. I have my one singular max level that I've had since the game came out. I've never leveled another character. Like, I have commitment issues and I'm
The
sticking with the one. I don't need to, like, multiply my time played for no reason.
When I played WoW, and I only played it up until Cataclysm, like Wrath of the Lich King was the last expansion that I was serious on. I started out as a Shadow Priest, and I got that to level 40, and then I switched to a Druid, and I took that Druid all the way. It was level 80 in Wrath of the Lich King, if I remember right. Maybe it was 70. Anyways,
70, yeah.
I took that up to max level, and I was a Bear Druid tank during Wrath of the Lich King. And that was where I stopped with it. Like I was heavily in engineering school. I had to drop it. Fun fact for those of you who may or may not come from technical background, shout out to Proof. I in fact did go to engineering school. When WoW patches or when WoW expansions drop, bell curves are easier in engineering school, and that's why I stopped playing WoW because I wanted to get A's on my tests. Like straight up, that's what happened there.
That's with the same line. I wish I knew his name, but there's some NFL player who, like, the week that Call of Duty comes out every year, his stats just fucking tank. Like, because he's just so mind gone, focused on duty that week. Like, they just bench him at this point, and Caitlin brought it up to my attention. I'm like, what? But that's just been my life
That
forever since I started playing games, so I relate.
oh, that's like now that I'm working a traditional 9 to 5 in an office, I 100% am going to start taking advantage of the fact that I can turn my brain off and get away with it at work from time to time.
Yes.
Like, dude, we live in a world, and I have been working since I was 12 years old. I am a 34-year-old man. Let's chill a little bit. Let's play some video games. Let's take some escapism and enjoy ourselves. If I have to live in a world where my worth is entirely tied to how much money I make, I am going to enjoy the money I make and play some fucking fantasy games. Let's go.
Which I'm surprised. This has always been sort of an issue. I mean, it's been an issue since gaming came back from the first crash. But for how big of an industry it is, how much, many billions of dollars they're doing a year, that to a wide group of people, it's still looked down as like a time waste for kids. And that's sort of where it ends. They see your Fortnites and Minecrafts and just think it's like, oh, this is a dumb little thing that kids do to have fun. But it goes
Dude,
so much beyond that that people don't see unless you're super in the niche or like following stuff on a daily.
look, I'm an employee that works for a state agency. I don't make a ton of money. My husband works for the oil and gas industry. He makes a shit ton of money.
Yeah.
Um,
Me dating
and
a nurse.
the uh c- the Christmas party that we went to on Saturday, like people showed up in a limousine too, which was wild for me. I was just like, these fucking tools showing up to these people's houses in a fucking limo. Are you kidding me?
That's nuts.
Definitely not kid friendly. Anyways, um, but while we were sitting there, I was talking to some people who went to my school. Like we just happened to meet up because they were part of the host work group. My husband works with the host, and we were talking with them, and they went to the same school that I did. And I was laughing. I was like, "Okay, but can we talk about how much better it was to have a WoW expansion come out while you were going to school because that bell curve dropped?" And we all started laughing. We're like, "Dude, what video games did you play while you were going to school though?" Because like everybody there picked like their one game. And you had mentioned League of Legends. Like that's actually how I got into League of Legends because it was free and I couldn't afford a non-free game while I was there. And that thing, I mean, I have played League for gosh, we're coming up on 13 years of League of Legends, which is crazy when I say it out loud. And I've only spent $200. Can you imagine playing something for 13 years and only spending $200 on that thing?
I'm I'm at 10 years with League, which is nuts to see, and I wouldn't believe it until I see like my icons I've unlocked and has it by year. And my earliest was 2013. I have yet to spend a dime on that game.
Yeah,
Not
like it
a
is
cent.
crazy. My John right now has sponsored more League content than I have because like his pretty skin will come out and he just ADHDs his way to it. He's like, I want that, and I'm like, hey, thanks for keeping my game free for me, dude. I appreciate you.
Yeah, no, it's good, and that's like I said. I started League 2013, and I think I started because one of my WoW friends from school played it, and he was like, "Oh, get on this with us." Blah blah blah. Messed around with it for a few months, dropped it, get back on for like a week or so, drop it, and then I think when we were at the place that shall not be named, we found out that I played or something and invited me, and ever since I just come like kind of the stepbrother you tag along whenever there's space. You send me a message, you be like, "Hey, come play it." I'm like, "I'm gonna tank everyone on your party, but yes, I'm here."
Well, and that's like you even did a clash with myself and some friends. for the ARAM Clash series, and you carried on Twitch.
Twitch is
Like,
good.
you straight up, you played some League of Legends with us recently, and those people are all better than me. So like, I'm hard stuck, high silver, low gold. Made gold for the very first time. 13 years, made gold for the first time this last year. Like, I am not good at League of Legends, but I watch the LCS. I follow the pro. I enjoy the game immensely, and my friends who play the game are like high gold and platinum players. And then poor Jocko just or Emily,
Either
sorry,
one. We
shows
don't
up.
care.
Shows up and just is like, what is I'm used to, like, when Jocko plays with me, it's I'm one of the better players just due to the time commitment. And
100%. I remember the old games when you were Bard support for me.
oh my gosh, I
Dumb.
had so much fun
Stupid.
trolling people. So much troll power in that. And the, like, amount that I'm so much worse than these other people that we play with, and I just some days I feel bad for it because, like, I know it's not fun getting your ass handed to you 24/7, but at the same time, hopping in on the back of some AD carry that just is better at positioning than 99% of players in the video game, you feel like you can't lose. Whatever, dude. I just have to tank, I have to frontline, and I win. Yay.
Yeah. And I felt bad. I don't think it was the ARAM we did, but it was like the night before. One of your friends was made a comment. We're like, "Oh, we have a misfortune building AP instead of AD or something." I was like, "I don't know what any of that means, and I've been here for 10 years. Please leave me alone." I buy
Well, you were
I buy the recommended builds I find online. Still, sorry.
yeah, no, that's like, the it's so wild to the league community, and, like, that's part of the toxicity that is kind of inherent in that game because, like, it's a 5v5 game where you depend on everybody to be playing, but you don't know who you're playing with, right? Like, you play League super casually, these people play it, like, once a day, 7 days a week, they put some time in, and then I'm, like, somewhere in the middle. And the thing that I have found, especially playing League of Legends, is the reason why these better players will play with me is because at the end of it, if you're fun to play with, people will play with you. Like, most people don't actually care if you're good. They care if you're lying or if you're a dick about it.
Hmm.
So if you're bad at the game, don't be a jerk. But if you're funny while you're bad at the game, they'll probably keep playing with you a little bit.
Well, that's with a lot of the people that are the more, I don't want to say snotty, but snotty people that play are the people who are like watching their favorite YouTubers or Twitch players and following their sort of demeanor and how they play and think they're on the same level.
Hmm.
And just because they absorb content that way, it doesn't make you a pro. Like, I have people, I'm in bronze 3, and I have people who think they're playing for like LCS teams going pro next year. Like, any slightest mistake, they're talking shit and they're trying to get you reported and banned after the game. Like, bro, we're all
Bro.
in the trenches of like homelessness in the league community. You don't mean anything.
When there was a sushi restaurant out in China that gave you a discount on your league ranking, y'all were paying extra to fund the discounts.
It brought me from a bronze 4 to a bronze 1. Suck it, nerds.
Like, well, that's the it's so I think it's really important because like I engage with that too. But you know what I know? I know I'm not faker.
No.
Like, the man has literally, I think he just got player of the year again. He's been playing League as long as I have and has been at the top of the game that entire time. I am not him. I'm not Bjergsen. I'm not double lift. I can drop both. I'm not Smithy. I'm not fucking sneaky. I'm not Medios. I am not this good at the game of League of Legends. But what I can do is I can sit there, I can play it with friends, I can have a good time, and I can create a good space around me. And that's why I play it.
And
And
also,
it is so fun to troll people from troll your friends when you're in a chat with them. Like, that's what I enjoy the most.
immediately tilted. And those people are paid to play League and be good. Sitting in your mom's basement while she pays your rent money and feeds you as a 30-year-old man isn't the same as getting paid to play League. Not
Mhm.
the same.
Well, and one of these days I may get you in a game with one of our friends, or one of my friends who is actually good at the game, like certifiably good, has played at the semi-pro level, continues to take a shot every so often to see if he could get into a higher tier of play, makes challenger, all that sort of stuff. Like he's a good League of Legends player. And I was playing one night with him, and he's like, "Okay, my friend's really good. Do you mind being the worst person in this game?" I'm like, "Dude, I'm already playing with you. I'm going to be the worst person in this game." He was like, "All right." And he like and we start sitting there and playing. And when I tell you that this jungler that hopped in this game, who was good at the game, we're like sitting there, we're going through champ select, and he's like, "This guy just picked Pantheon top lane. I'm gonna make sure he quits League of Legends." That Pantheon died 10 times before 12 minutes.
Oh, you were
And
trying at
he
that point.
like that wasn't like he was inting. He was getting dove under towered by a Rek'Sai Yone that entire time. He tried to play properly. And this Rek'Sai just literally put him in a hole. And I was just sitting there mid lane, like trying not to feed the other enemy mid laner and enable the Rek'Sai. And he's like, "Hey, do you want to get a kill real quick?" I was like, "Why don't you just take it?" He's like, "Bet," and show up and would just like nuke the mid laner. I mean, like, what? Is this what it's like when you absolutely like none of my decisions mattered? I'm pretty sure I could have AFK'd that game and they still would have won that game in less than 20 minutes. Like the surrender vote never came through because we took their Nexus at 19.
That's the textbook definition of the best way to make sure you're having fun at video games is to make sure the people you're playing as aren't having any fun.
The zero sum game it? Yeah.
Yeah, we love that. Fuck Pantheon,
So
though. Real talk. Fuck Pantheon.
that champion.
This is coming from someone who has. I play 3 characters still after 10 years, and I have no interest in expanding because I don't want to get yelled at because I am soft. And the mute button will be abused.
Look, I have a friend who mutes all every single time he plays League of Legends, and he would like leave League of Legends and stop playing it because he would get tilted. And then once he started using mute all, he played more consistently and had a better time. And those kinds of tools, if it makes the game more fun for you, use them. Mute all. Screw it. You don't need to listen to people. If they're a jerk, get them out of your space. That's fine. It doesn't. The most adult thing in the world is to be like, you spoke like you were an ass to me. You can't talk to me anymore. Bye. Like that's just being an adult. That's having a good boundary. Do that. It's good for you.
Does League do the thing where it carries, if you mute someone, does it carry through like multiple games? Because that was my favorite thing when I was super big into Smite, where I would mute so many people that like months later I would get into games with like half muted lobbies already from previous. It's like, this is the type of shit I play against. Love it.
I don't think so. If you block people, it automatically mutes them if you get back in with them. I don't think it carries mutes all the way through.
No,
unfortunately,
it's the best.
I do like that effect. I would League of Legends, if you somehow catch wind of this, implement that into your system because I'm likely not muting somebody because I'm having a bad day. I'm likely muting them because I don't want to listen to that particular individual ever again in my life. So my intent is to mute them for forever.
That may be the one thing that Smite does better. That somehow failing game is still surviving by a thread.
Just
that was
on.
like my league. Like me and my best friend, we played for 5 years, like daily, multiple hours a day. He was like one of the top 100 Scylla players on leaderboards. Like we were fucking in it.
Mm-hmm.
I was getting in fights with content creators. I was blocked by content creators because they were like, he was a caster for him, I think, and he made some post about everyone talks shit on Smite, but no one can actually like point towards actual problems with the game, and it's just fun to hate on it. And I literally spent half a day like sending in clips of glitched lobbies and bugs and just everything else, and he just muted me because he wanted nothing to do with it. He's like, "This could never happen," and I sent him a clip of like, I loaded into a new Conquest, which is just a basic league game, like the 3 lanes. And the people I was playing against the game before were still in my game outside of the map walking in place. Like the models and character and player names were still in my current new game with 5 new people. He's like, "Oh, this is something that would never happen. You did something to the game for this to happen." I'm like, "No, my guy, this is just how this game is."
This is the spaghetti code that exists for Smite, which, I mean, like, let's just be very, very clear. There is some serious spaghetti code running through a lot of these games. They are pushed so heavily to make new content, make new skins, do this, do that, do this, do that. And they have so much technical debt that it's really hard for them to manage. And look, I remember when there was a point in League of Legends where Lee Sin was coded to literally travel the entire map on his Q and then arrive next to the champion and damage them. So there is a clip of the internet of a Lee Sin trying to take a Q in bot lane and getting hooked by the Thresh in top lane.
Yep.
Like, that exists. That used to happen. So glitches are a reality of our life. In games where it's just you as one person playing through, a glitch is kind of funny. When you're playing a 5v5 and you're trying to be competitive and the glitch like breaks the game, it's really frustrating. Worst thing in a professional League of Legends is a pause. Like, it's such a downer every time it happens because you're like, is this a real pause? An actual glitch? What's going on? Like, this sucks.
Which
But
I've seen some wonky
reality of the
ones.
industry.
I've been on League TikTok this year for some reason, and I saw it was in a pro game. Someone paused because his chair wasn't comfy enough and wanted a different chair, and they like restarted shit for him. I'm like, what the fuck?
Oh yeah, no, they'll pause over. So League of Legends definitely caters heavily to their pro personalities. They've taken the perspective of, or they're trying to mirror basketball culture. So like superstars are a really big deal, and like big personalities are really encouraged. That sort of stuff.
Players choking each other out.
Yeah. Who FlyQuest actually for the LCS had some really good content they put out. Evil Geniuses had some solid content until they boomed their entire team because they kind of went bankrupt. Uh
Rip.
yeah. 100 Thieves boomed so bad this year. I could talk for years about the LCS. That they actually there's some shit going on there because they dropped 2 teams and they're going through a massive shrink. So esports was like the promised land for gamers, right? We were so excited and we're finally going to be able to play video games professionally. And they just I have realized that they overshot their audience and the amount of money that exists in that space for it. So there's a little bit of a cutback going on there.
Which I think that's where it started on my TikTok. It was talking about was the walkout or something, and they didn't want to like pay to bring in players from the lower league to come up to play in the main league or something, and people were like threatening to not play or some shit. I don't know.
Oh yeah, I mean, if you want to talk about the walkout, I could talk about that LCS walkout because that's unions.
Is
It's
it?
like,
I got
yeah.
the baseline of it on TikTok, and that's like where my content started coming in from it, and it just hasn't left.
Okay, so what happened this summer with the LCS and the union fight, and the players' union in particular got involved, and fuck. Okay, one, I've watched Double Lift play a lot of League of Legends, but the man needs to shut his mouth when it comes to things like labor contracts and let his agents take care of it. Double Lift, if you happen to listen to this, I love you, bro. Shut the fuck up. Um, because the LCS allowed their teams to drop all of their semi-pro teams and not do I think it's called Challenger, or it was called Challenger leagues. Basically like the step down from the LCS, right?
Yeah.
And they're like, hey, you no longer have to do this in order to have an LCS team. And like 7 teams dropped all these players. So some like 30 people lost their jobs overnight. Which is a big deal in that industry. Like, there's not a lot of people in that industry. It's a very small unit. They were people like Wild Turtle. Oh gosh, Zion Spartan.
Sure.
I don't think that's his name. Darshan. Darshan is his name now. Darshan was a part of that. Like, big names in League of Legends that had been around for years lost their job overnight over this decision. So the players union actually orchestrated a walkout, and there was a union walkout on the LCS stage,
which
which was a
is
big deal.
wild.
Yeah. It was a really cool moment in history, and especially when you look at it through the lens of like SAG-AFTRA and the entertainment walkout going on in general with the writer strike and everything. Like this was just another entertainment walkout for the players themselves.
Which
And I'm real, yeah,
is crazy considering League is like the epitome of what esports is now. Like it's the biggest thing as far as like tournaments, like prize pools, and all the like viewership goes. For like the largest mountain to sort of like tumble underneath due to executive decisions and shit like that. Especially in
yeah,
this year where like I don't know if you keep up with it, but Overwatch quit. Overwatch League's done after this past year. Like they're not coming back into it because it's just money's not there, whatever, players not there. And so many other things like Halo Championship Series, like holding on by a thread somehow. To see sort of that like leading example just kind of fall apart at the seams isn't the best, but kind of mimics what the industry is right now, anyways.
right. Well, it's described as esports winter is how a lot of people are talking about it, because like there is talk about esports becoming the next big thing, and esports being something that there's a lot of money to make into it. And when you pitch it like soccer or football or any of these other professional sports, and they're like, this is going to be what esports is. But I don't think that what they failed to actually like talk about was esports were never going to be something that was going to break into the mainstream pop culture because of what you talked about, how people view video games still. Like it's crazy because if I go into work and I tell people, oh yeah, I just sat there and binge watched Netflix, they'd be like, man, I really identify that. I binge watched this the other day, right?
Yep.
But if I tell them that I sat down and I played League for 8 hours, they're like, man, I just can't, I don't understand video games. How can you do that? Like I'm actually using my brain and putting together puzzles if I'm playing a video game, right? Like you are actively thinking if you're playing a video game versus when you're just watching a TV show, you're just consuming media. So I'm sorry that I like my media to be something that I interact with.
Yeah,
Drives me
that's
crazy.
it's very much it's the guy who I've been training with in my new position. Very old head, like 68-year-old guy. Always complains about how his kids are like on their games and shit, and one of them's a streamer and he's like 15 or something. I don't know. Always complaining about it, doesn't understand it, but then immediately after, be like, "Oh, can't wait to go home and watch the game or watch TV with the cold beer after work for the rest of the night." I'm like, the correlation is there. It's right in front of you. I just need you to put the pieces together of how similar these things are, please.
Yeah. Like it's we just like our TV shows to be something that we feel like we're influencing or we're participating in. It's not that hard of a concept. Like
We want that
stop it.
spare serotonin when good things happen.
Oh, it feels so good when you get the little ding ding or the like little double kill or something like that. I got my first pentakill this year. This is how bad
What?
I am at League of Legends. I've been playing since 20 been playing since 2010 and I got my first pentakill this year. Let me tell you the amount of good brain chemicals that kick in the first time you get a fucking pentakill. Like I was such a god
Can't
in that
relate.
moment. Oh, it felt so good, Jocko. Oh my god. The best part is so like I got that pentakill. I was like, oh, but literally 2 days before I got robbed of my first pentakill by my husband.
Was it with an Alawi?
Nope, it was
D-
not with an Alawi. He was
Damn.
playing a support.
John and Alawi is something else.
Oh, it's he loves his tentacle mama.
That's up there with you and
And he's
Bard back in
like,
the day. Like, those two together, I was just being carried. It was great.
it was good times. We had a lot of fun with it. But yeah, no, I hope that esports winter or whatever we're about to see with this downturn gets to a more sustainable level because it is genuinely entertaining, and I love watching good people play video games to the best of their capabilities. So I hope I hope we make it through. If we don't make it through, I'll just play more video games. It's not the end of the world. Some days you don't want to use your brain though. Like if you've had a really long day, you don't want to be the one responsible for missing a flash. You'd rather watch somebody else miss a flash.
Yeah, I've I've been at this point for a while, but I've just this year accepted it as sad as it makes me that I'm at the point of I enjoy the thought of games and the excitement around games more than I like playing them, if that makes any sense. I can spend all day listening to podcasts, listening to predictions, listening to watching game trailers, just being super excited. And then if it's for me hyping it up in my head, the second I sit down with something, I'm just like, okay, cool. This was fine. And it's made me miss so many experiences recently that I wanted to be in on. Like we mentioned Baldur's Gate. Cool. Eventually I'll get to it. Alan Wake 2 everyone super loves. Cool, I'll play it someday. Like I like the conversation around it more now than the
Well,
actual activity.
and I think that part of that is like time dedicated to it, right? Because you can experience more games. And also, like, video games are such a form of art. And when you're not playing through the art yourself, you have time to consume more of the art and like watch how it's moving and the ways it's moving. Like we talked about, like League of Legends, kind of how that did everything. And the different ways that League and Riot have shifted how we view the world and view things. And right now, roguelites. Like, can we talk about what Hades did to the video game genre in general and the video game community and how they shifted the way that some people play video games?
Oh,
It is
it's
absolutely wild.
everyone's trying to get a piece of that pie. I don't think to the extent that like that Fortnite kicked off battle royales and everyone and their mother needed to try and get a battle royale in their game. But
Hmm.
no, roguelikes, like you said, Hades, Binding of Isaac, even before that. I just, I don't know if you watched any of the Game Awards at the beginning of the month, but they announced a free DLC update for God of War Ragnarok. That's just a full on roguelike mode. Going through rooms, picking up abilities and powers, your baseline, base level character. Just beat that this morning. It was fucking great. Like, tell me a year ago God of War would have a roguelike mode? Nah. Last of Us 2 is getting a roguelike next year? Nuts.
Yeah. Well, and I think it goes back to like we have slightly less time to play video games. And once you learn the mechanics of a video game, it's really hard to relearn mechanics for a different game unless you're really excited for the video game, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's the hard part about it. I haven't beat Mario Rapids yet, and I've been trying to play through that game every single time. But whenever I pick it back up after I haven't played it for a while, I'm like, God, I can't even remember how to like shoot things properly in this RTS. And I love the game; it's super fun. I just take it has a little bit of a vertical learning curve when you're at later stages of the game and you pick it up after 6 months.
Is it, are you doing the first one or the second one?
The first one,
So that
yet to
again,
pick up the second one.
I just finished that for the first time this year too. I think in like September I picked it up randomly in like 3 days, finished it off. But yeah, I every battle I was like, I don't have time to relearn this. I'm kicking on the easy mode. Give me the extra health. Like
Yep.
it's fine. Which that too, a lot of people are like, it's dumb. It's internet culture. But the people now are like, oh, you play easy mode or with accessibility options to make the game easier. There's no even point playing this game. Blah blah blah. I'm like, bro, I just want to see the story. I want to have a good time and find enjoyment. I don't need to like sweat my brains out on a Mario game.
Right? Well, and I think like when I started to accept that I wanted to play video games for fun and I didn't need to like straight up go Pokemon trainer on this, be the very best that ever was at it, video games got so much more fun for me. I don't need to sit there and like have perfect mechanics the whole time. Is there a time and place for it? Absolutely. It's called Dark Souls. Play that game. Trust me, you'll get perfect mechanics eventually, or you'll just die. a lot.
Or quit after 20 minutes like I did.
Such that one, I only got anywhere in that game because of a really good friend of mine who was sitting beside me walking through it. And like you get a really good serotonin hit when you finally kill the boss that had literally killed me 20 times prior to it. It was like, yeah, like got that hit. Uh, But now I don't want to finish the story because like I don't have 8 hours to die to a single boss anymore.
Yeah.
I don't have it. I'm sorry. I don't. I'd rather work my way through a storyline dependently.
Which that too, I think on the other side of that coin of enjoying the thought of games and playing them now too, is how much of a toss up of an experience you're gonna get from the developer and what they're putting out. Which, as great as this year was, there were still some shitters like Gollum, Lord of the Rings Gollum that came out, and the King Kong game that came out that looks like it was made in 2001. Like the financial investment you're trying to make on that for a chance of something that may be good is one of the reasons I really love Game Pass now because I don't need to drop 70 every time I want to try something new. If I like it, I like it. If not, I'll move on. Like it's not like you feel inclined to finish something because you put money into it.
Well, that's like with Game Pass is the reason why I actually picked up Starfield because it was free. At the same time that Baldur's Gate 3 played or dropped, I had a choice: Baldur's Gate 3 or Starfield. Starfield was free on Game Pass. Pick that one up.
Yep.
And I enjoyed my time on it. I was like, this is fun. This is fine. It is what it is. I never finished Skyrim. I didn't think I was going to finish Starfield. I did not finish Starfield. It is what it is. I'm good with it. It was a good time when I was playing it. Am I going to go back to it? Probably not. Not if I'm entirely honest.
No. And some of the
And
stuff
that's
people
like,
are like, you need to play Starfield to see the ending and go through multiple playthroughs. I was like, okay, so I quickly ran through like a second and third one to see what everyone was talking about and like what the big twist was. Like this just wasn't worth it. Like the chance of something different happening in your story, I don't know if you want me to spoil it, but like the chance of something different happening is such a toss up and a huge ask for someone to invest like 20 hours to see the good parts of your game.
look, okay, again, not a family friendly show, not a kid friendly show. We made this very clear beforehand. I don't I love inclusivity in video games. I hope that they continue that trend. I think it's really good. I also love it when I can have a skin that makes me look like the gayest thing in the world while while I kill somebody because I know that some homophobe is going to get triggered by the fact that I just puked rainbows at them and murdered them. And that's something I thoroughly enjoy. But I don't care if my video game lets me sit there and get ramrodded by the daddiest of daddies out there, that's not something I'm typically looking for in my video games. If I want that, I can find smut online. Like, to be the alternative endings for video games, I think it's really cool. And I'm really happy that they include that in their storytelling. But I think that that just makes the initial playthrough storytelling more dependent or more dependable for me because it makes me want to play the game more honest through the story, right?
Yeah.
So, like with Baldur's Gate 3, I know I will only ever play that game once. And when I play it through the first time, I'm going to play it through honest. I'm going to play it through the way I want to play it through with the character that I want to play it through. And that's going to be the way I play that game. I will never commit to go back through just to see the different paths because I have other media I want to consume. And I only have so much time on this planet for me to consume that media.
But Tim, if you spend another 9 hours, you get one single different line dialogue change, and it was super worth it.
Look, I'm just gonna again point to League of Legends and the amount of play ability that I've gotten through that. If I need more bang for my buck, that's probably the style of game that I'm going to go through. These story-driven games, I'm literally going to engage with once to learn to get through the story. I'm gonna bawl my eyes out. I'm gonna have a good time. I'm gonna enjoy the highs, the lows. I'm gonna see the pretty things, and then I'm gonna move on with life. Like I was also my first game that I just sat there and I played for hours and hours on end. Like I probably have at least a year into this particular franchise, but Super Smash Brothers, I played so much of as a kid. And like even now, I went and saw family for Thanksgiving, and we booted up the Super Smash Brothers, whatever it is, on Switch. And like I was bad the first night, and by the second night it rolled around, I was again just cleaning the clock of my entire family.
Things started clicking again.
Oh my gosh, that muscle motor memory clicked in, and I was sitting there and just downbeating on Jigglypuff and absolutely destroying people. They're like, "What is that?" I was like, "I went to sleep and you died." Um,
It would be Jigglypuff.
I'm telling you that one of the things that makes me a toxic League of Legends player is I don't just like beating people, I like frustrating them while I beat them in competitive gaming. I think that's the best
That's
part about
part of
the
the
game.
tactic, though. You get them tilted, easy win. They start throwing
Right.
purposely or just so upset at you.
Right. Like, I mean, you mentioned I was a Bard player. The entire tactic with Bard is the same tactic as with Singe. Just get them to chase you. If you get them to chase you enough, eventually they're out of position and your team just sits there and claps them. And you're like, you're an idiot.
Which it super leagues to getting people to that point is so much better to do because it's easily to be reported afterwards and like smack them back a second time for what they said. Whereas like I used to be the kid and I regret it now. But like 360 days on Call of Duty, I was the tweaking 12, 13-year old yelling the most obscene shit that I should have been smited down as I stood. Like, I was that kid. Because back then it was voice chat. No one gave a shit.
Yeah.
I slept with everyone's mother. I was saying things that I would be put in an insane asylum for. Nowadays, though, I think it was like 2 months ago, Xbox just introduced the ability to like capture in-game voice chat and report that directly. That time's out.
Mhm.
That time's long gone. For the better, because that created such a bad image of games and people that played them, where you were just like a degenerate.
Well, and it's not just about the image. It's so most people, or a lot of people who play video games, play it for escape, right? And you don't know what they're escaping. You don't know what their life situation is or anything like that. So, like League of Legends, sometimes it gets super toxic. Somebody pops off in chat, mute, block, report them at the end. And honestly, I hope that they have a better day. Because, like, if you bother to sit there and throw a homophobic or racist slur my way, I'm assuming that you're having a really bad day. Because this is a video game that we're playing and you're deciding that that's appropriate language. Like, either you're having a bad day or you're a shitty person. Either way, I hope you get educated and I hope you become better.
Giving you the benefit of the doubt even then. Like, we're going to assume you're not absolute scum.
I,
Just smile.
it's
Be hugged.
go touch some grass, it'll be fine. I also played Magic the Gathering, which, if there's anything in the world that will eventually teach you to just accept that sometimes you just can't win, play a card game, y'all. Like these trading card games, about the third time you get a land full of hand in a match, you're just like, guess I'm not winning today.
I haven't touched Magic since the one time I played against your friend with a toxic deck at Friday Night Magic here at locals, and I quit. Cold turkey.
Yeah, that was
Still haunts me. I bought a pack though recently because I saw they have like they're doing the fun like IP buddy up things, and there was like a
uh-huh.
Jurassic Park theme pack. I bought one for fun. Didn't get anything. Like I don't need to touch this anymore.
Well, that's the so Magic is such a weird thing and it's such an expensive hobby. That's the other half of it. So John and I got pretty hot and heavy into it. We were up there in the frozen north, but now that we're down here in Texas and we have other options, we're just like, I don't really want to spend. I mean, we were spending somewhere around $100 to $200 a month on Magic the Gathering, easy, not including some cards that we were getting because, like, he bought a Gaia's Cradle, which is like a $500 card.
It's that oil
Yeah,
money.
That it was that oil money. Well, and it's cold up there. We had nothing else to do besides play Magic with friends and hang out on Friday nights because we didn't want to go to the bar and drink, especially because I ran a bar.
Yeah, which that's
Like,
what I said at the beginning too. Like up here, I would argue Magic and stuff like that has a bigger following than video games do. As like weird as it is for me to say, but there's a more
well,
established set of people and groups and stuff, and here,
especially because the social dynamics, I think, is what it keys in. Like, if there was a gaming cafe or a space where you could go play games together, I think that it may start to catch on. But like board games and card games up there serve as an alternative to getting drunk, is really what it comes down to.
yeah, and it's everyone kind of attaches together because up here it's very much like you're one type of person up here where you're like super right wing, like farmer, country bumpkin, fucking getting drunk on listening to whatever the shit Morgan Wallen on a daily basis. Like, if you're not in that group, you're kind of an outcast here.
Mm-hmm.
And there's not a whole wide reach of diversity of people. So the people that do have those interests, they lock together and you're just stuck with those people.
Yeah. And it's super. It's so I always laugh at like how I end up making or how we made friends while we traveled around the U.S. while I followed my husband because of what he did for work. And every single time I was sitting there, I was like, I would never be friends with these people if I was in a city. And now that I'm like in a city, I find myself trying to find those same people and become friends with them again. And it's so hard once you're in these large metroplexes because everybody, like, you can find the other gamers, you can find these other groups, and then you're like, oh, maybe I should go engage with them, but you're not really looking for somebody. Like, I'm not looking for another League of Legends nerd. I'm looking for somebody who likes video games
Yeah.
and wants to engage with all the video games. But like, there isn't a all the video games group. There's like a League group, a Halo group, a this group, a that group, right? So it's much more fragmented into individual interests.
Give me a Banjo Kazooie group and I'll be happy.
Oh my gosh, Banjo Kazooie is so good.
um, yeah, no, especially I experienced that for a bit in my short time in Grand Rapids, where I was in the same situation as we were at our place that's not been named up here. Opened a new restaurant, bunch of just random fucking people that I've never met before being thrown in to achieve this task of opening a restaurant successfully and like bonding over that. And there was a few where like I had my prep cook who was a Call of Duty guy, so if I want to play Duty, I would contact him. I had my pastry chef who would be she wants to play some weird fucking farming thing. Like, yeah, cool, I'll do that. But it wasn't like an all encompassing video games.
Hmm.
It was this one specific thing, and I'm gonna live, eat, sleep, and breathe it.
Yep. And just kind of work with it, and you live life, and you call it good. I don't know. It's not a bad way to go. In all honesty, I think it actually helps keep you kind of like balanced and grounded. Because if you get too heavily invested in one game and then you hit a bad patch, God, that feels so bad every time.
Your life's over.
It's so rough. I'm just sitting there. I'm like, really? This is what I'm stuck doing. Is this particular thing?
Or when the game itself openly backhands its player base, it just kind of kicks you out after all the years. We were talking a little bit before we started about Destiny 2 and its new expansion that's just a mess and the whole company's a mess. My one friend I've had on here as a guest, Kyle, was like the Destiny guy. Like Destiny 1 betas, alphas, testing, hundreds of hours. Like that was his addiction. And now Bungie's just kind of like laying it down on them. And it's like, well, that was a bunch of time wasted. Thanks.
It is so wild to me whenever stuff like that happens. I'm just like, what the hell?
Industry's a mess. Everything's a mess. We're all going downhill. We're kicking Bobby Kotick out of Activision next year, so one good thing will come of it. But we are hour and 10 minutes in. I think
Yeah.
this is pretty okay spot. I think we're usually With my solo stuff, I'm usually like 45 minutes to an hour, so a little over, but it was good.
Well, I thoroughly enjoyed it, and I'm really excited. Like, it's so funny. Every single time I talk with you about video games specifically like that, like, it gets me excited to play video games again. And it brings a little bit of happiness to my heart because as a gay person who was not in a good environment for gay people growing up, video games were an escape for me. And I still find so much solace in that space whenever I'm like just trying to get through my day and I just need to have control over the world and make sure that if I do the things that I'm supposed to do, I'm going to get the results I want and not randomly have somebody decide to ruin my day, right?
To
Video games give me that.
a point. Unless you're me, I'm like, I know what I'm supposed to do as misfortune in this game, but I'm gonna get screwed either way.
Oh yeah. No, those are not games when you beat up League of Legends. There is a video on the internet from when League of Legends first released of like this guy logging on. He's like, I'm going to play a nice, relaxing game of League of Legends. And it ends with him putting his fist through the computer and there being like shards in his fist. It's super like mid 2000s, really funny. I was dying of laughter because like I've been there. So if you ever think I need to relax, do not boot up a video game where you need to play with other people. Boot up a video game that you can play by yourself. Because guess what? That video game was designed for you to play by yourself and enjoy. So it's going to work out better for you. A little bit of a life hack there. That's my own rule. Like if I'm mad, I never play League. Never. Will not boot it up. Some days I won't even boot up the games like Diablo if I'm annoyed because I'm like, I just don't want people around me. That's what the single player games, the Final Fantasy sevens are for. Like, just boot those up and enjoy because nobody's going to come in and randomly murder you there.
Until they do. Until they add that in a patch and you could just jump into other people's games.
Yeah, no, never will. And Dark Souls, yeah, that was disabled. As soon as they were like, "Do you want other people to join you?" I'm like,
Nope.
"Nope."
I'm in that vein, I don't punch my monitor, but I'm a big knee puncher. Was a big knee puncher. It's dumb. It hurts. I just want to be happy. I'll go I'll go back into Viva Pinata of all things and have a joyful time. That game's like
Trying
a
to
fever
think.
dream.
My family at one point in time when we were like 13, 14 years old and angry, and there were like two of us boys, I think we ran through like 4 or 5 controllers before we realized that you weren't supposed to throw the controller.
Oh, I had my time. Again, back in the 360 days, those things were fucking corded and I had like a wood floor, fake wood floor. That stuff, like, grab it just above where it connects to the controller, smack that on the ground, chunks go flying, you don't know where pieces are at.
Yup.
Text my buddy in Michigan, be like, hey, I'll be back in like 5, gotta run to Walmart fast. Heard. The microphones, the little shitty 360 microphones that were like quarter inch of plastic over your head, just grab that, rip it off. Dumb. Foolish kids. Dumb fat kids.
Oh man, just doing dumb kid things. Oh man,
Ugh.
so good. So many good memories. But yeah, thanks for having me on. If you'd like to hear me talk about things other than video games with Jocko, the podcast is It Gets Worse. I have a wonderful co-host, Chris. They are absolutely fantastic. And we just talk about how to create queer community wherever you go, however you can, in the best ways possible. Right now we're going through like a pop culture thing where we're discussing different pop culture icons. We discussed The Matrix. We just discussed Rent.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I was like, I feel like I need to watch Rent after the last one.
Oh, it was so good, dude. Like, I love that movie so much. And it just spoke to my heart. In all honesty, rather than Rent, the next one that we're watching is Saltburn.
Yeah, yeah.
Saltburn's good. It is going to make you so uncomfortable. Like, this movie is hard to watch, but it is such a good movie. Like, Such a good movie. I hope it gets so many awards. I would love for cinema to go this route. So,
Interesting.
Saltburn, I would recommend heavily.
That's good.
Um,
No, I generally like I put you guys' show on when I'm doing like my dailies in WoW or Dungeon Runs and stuff. Have it playing in the background. I'm like, I've never heard of half these things. Like I'm not a movie guy in general, but like just the Rent conversation from last one, like add it to the list.
yeah, Brett was great. We'll keep diving down and figuring it out. The fact is that, like, just like in video games, right? Like, we have this subculture and there's video games and there's different aspects of it, and it kind of gives you a look into the life that is the human condition that we live in. Like, movies and other things can support that as well. And all these different art forms have been vehicles for minority communities to communicate so many different things over the years. So we have a good time. We talk about life, the universe, and everything, and how we can keep breathing the next day. That's the end goal, right?
Some days.
Look, as I and you know this, you and I have worked together. This is just how my brain works. At every point in time, whatever it results in the decision to keep breathing the next day, I want people to make that decision because that's what it's all about. We are going to get through this. We're going to get better because as long as we're around, we can continue working, growing together, right? So it's not always a fun thing as a millennial. I was supposed to die in 2013 and not have to be responsible for my student loans, and everybody lied to me about that. So I'm still salty about it here 10 years later, still $70,000 in debt.
That's what I said. I was always shooting for like 25, and I would have been good. I didn't ask to be born into this debt and bills.
But
Yes.
lo and behold, here we are.
Still kicking. And like you said at the beginning, definitely for if you are interested in Fantasy Critic next year, I think after Christmas, I'm going to try and start getting stuff together because I'd like to do that as like a live show too with everyone.
Yeah.
It's going to be a bitch because there's a lot of people in Dickinson here. You're Texas, different time zone, and Kyle's in California. But I'm going to figure it out. I'll micromanage the shit out of it. We'll get it set up.
So I'll once we're off the podcast and a little bit in the future, I'll reach out to you because I have access to some services that I have, and we may be able to like use both of those to make all this work, if that makes sense.
Yes, because I'm dumb. Like, I am Bear Labs. I'm running Streamlabs with the bare necessities to get stuff working. Because, again, like I said, it's just usually me 99% of the time. It's like having to intertwine everything with other people. That would be helpful.
Yeah, I think we should be able to pull something off. We'll see what we do. We could have some fun. The first time we did it, when we were in the back room of that place that shall not be named.
Oh, in the party room? Yeah.
Yeah.
Again, like I said, that was like, I was in a dark fucking place. Like, I was not in a good mindset. And I was like, I'm going to get everyone I know. You're going to come do this with me to make me happy. And you were like, no, motherfucker, we're getting the party room. We're going to make this a big thing. And I was like, yes.
Yeah, no, it was so good. It was so much fun. I got to have nachos that day. It was the only thing I cared about. God, I love nachos.
Let me
I got to
say, we went to
yeah.
that place yesterday. Not good. How the mighty have fallen.
I okay, it was not mighty because the, there were a few people carrying that particular location pretty hard.
So I'm so happy to be out of food now. God.
Oh man, such a
Quitting
good
that cold turkey though, like just like not doing food after so long. I was like, what the fuck?
It's so wild not having coworkers who are addicted to meth.
Or coworkers who have like a sleeping schedule with half the back.
Yeah.
I'm with person A for Monday, Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and person B for the other days, every other weekend.
Mm-hmm. Oh my gosh.
God. But yes, this was Bleep Bloop, episode 7. Still kicking on the name. It'll catch on eventually. Don't even know, Tim. Were you a 360 guy back in the day, Tim?
I tried so hard to be a 360 guy, but I wasn't nearly edgy enough for it. I was a GameCube gamer.
Okay. We got the... Caitlin hates it. But we used to do, like... Me and my friend group used to do, like, achievement days challenges, and we'd see who can get, like, the most achievement points back in the day. And we would be in a party and whenever someone got into achievement, we'd say like bleep bloop the name and like what it was for and the points. Dumb, because that's the sound it makes. So we just went with bleep bloop. It's good. It works.
I like it. No, we could lean into that.
It is.
Well, thank you again for having me on, Jocko.
Yes, sir. Thank you for joining me. We will be back eventually. I think for the site, if you're listening, I should have our like end of the year awards up in the next week, and then still doing our sort of look back at articles and stuff we did this year before going into the new year. And like I said, hopefully I can get something in cement with that company, the developer, publisher, to start getting like actual previews and early access to stuff, because that's dream goal for this whole thing, sort of, to get my foot in the industry and hopefully grow. But that'll do it. Again, Tim, It Gets Worse podcast on Spotify. We will catch you next time. Goodbye.
Bye. Play some video games. Drink water.
Mountain Dew Game Fuel's back, Tim. We don't need water.